Hey, this is Pat, and today we're checking out the all-new Alpinestars SP-8 V3 gloves. Now, the SP-8 V3s might be the best bang for buck when it comes to a long gauntlet leather sport riding glove that's available out there on the market. So I really like what Alpinestars is doing with a full leather and stretch and mesh, and there's actually two different versions up here that I'll talk about in a second, but it's going to be full leather main construction. You get a little bit of 3D mesh on the Air versions, or just a little bit of extra leather on the non-Air versions. There's a Stella version for the ladies out there that need a glove as well. But for all these features coming in around the $110 price point, it definitely punches well above its weight in terms of features without breaking the bank. So if you are looking for a new set of sport riding gloves, if you're a commuter out there or going to the track, something that can get you out there, the SP-8 V3s might just be the right ticket for you. And I mentioned it before, I have the Air version on my hands here, which are going to be almost identical to the non-Air versions, which is actually a gripe I have, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So I have the non-Air versions that I'll talk about, and then there is going to be a Stella version, which I don't have up here, but there is a Stella version, which all the same features designed for the female riders out there. But before I get too long-winded on all the features, let's break down the fit real quick. Now, I measure my hand just about 8.75 inches in the circumference around the width of my palm. And what I will say is I fit in a large in everything. The large in these fits pretty tight. So I'd say they're fitting about a half size tight, especially around the wrist, but more so in the finger length in here. That the leather will break in. So if you like a tight fitting glove, stick with what the sizing chart is recommending. If you like something that's going to break in and have a little bit more movement around, just because you are going to be more aggressively grabbing on the controls with a full leather sport glove, you might want to look at the next size up. So keep that in mind. If you're between sizes, I'd definitely say go up to the larger side. If you like a tight fitting glove, stick with the spot on sizing. And if you want something with a little bit more space, that's when you're going to need to make a decision if you want to bump up from there. So keep that in mind. The key area is going to be right around the wrist and at the ends of the fingers. It's a little bit tighter than most gloves out there on the market. But they will come in a plethora of different colors. Alpinestars is always good at that and introducing new colors each year. And it comes in sizes ranging from small up to 3 extra large for the men's out there. Now, key differences, like I said, I wanted to talk about from between the Air and the non-Air version is really just this big point of 3D mesh running down the inner portion right behind the thumb. That's actually just going to be leather on the regular version. And then this big patch of stretch at the back of the hand is just accordion stretch, where it's a much more breathable stretch on the Air version. Now, you do get a lot of perforated leather on the regular version compared to the amount of perforation all on the Air version. It's a lot less, but you still get that on the regular. So I wish Alpinestars maybe would have differentiated these two models a little bit more, maybe get rid of all the perf on the regular version just to make it something for cooler weather riding or anybody out there that might not be in the dead heat of summer. But if you are in the dead heat of summer and, like I said, you're looking for a great value when it comes to the features, the Air version is probably one of my favorite ones out there on the market right now. And I know I keep saying that, but again, for the features that we'll talk about in a second, all for that price point, it's really sweet. So let's start talking about those features. It is a double gauntlet cuff design when you get into it. So you do have a lower retention strap that is hidden under a little bit of a flap there. But the main entrance is going to be up here with this big gauntlet style flap up top with leather on the outside, a little bit of perforation and the Velcro. And it is pretty wide, so you can get it over top of the cuff of your jacket, or you can tighten it down if you are going underneath of it. You do have the option there. Big old piece of foam at the ulna just to protect the outer portion of the wrist if you should go down, with a little bit of perforation over top. And again, I mentioned on these Air versions, you get the 3D mesh running down the back of the thumb with the stretch panel at the back. Now, both will get this dual density knuckle, so you get a lot of movement side to side. It does flex a lot. Again, sport riding, you're going to be moving, hanging off the edge of the bike, so you want as much movement, but both have little air inlets to allow a little bit of air through at the knuckle to help cool down the back of the hand. That's going to be on the Air as well as the regular version, but you still get the flex on each side, which I really dig, and there is a piece of foam underneath there just for a little bit of added impact protection and a little bit comfort when you're in the aggressive riding position. That's fully surrounded by perforated leather all the way throughout, and then when we get to the fingers, a little bit more foam underneath the leather, as well as a little bit more of that 3D mesh at the knuckles of the finger, just to allow as much air flow through as possible with stretch in the foreshets. Now, you will notice it does have a 3rd and 4th finger bridge over here connecting the pinky to the index, and the idea behind that is to help secure the little finger a little bit more, that it's going to be bracing up against your ring finger on there. So that's been something Alpinestars has been using for years. I like that they're adding it into this iteration. little bit more pre-curve in the fingers than most gloves out there. Again, being sport riding, it's something that's going to be super aggressive. You can really see that when I flip over the palm side. And one thing I like is that there is touch tech both on the index and the thumb. Typically on sport gloves, we see that feature missing just because if you're out there racing at the track, it's not something a lot of people need, but I like that for the street use and the street usability that Alpinestars is including that on these SP-8s. Full goat leather to match the back of the hand, that's all goat leather. Full goat leather down the palm. And what I will say is you do get the stretch at the crook of the thumb and the palm area. Again, just adds for a ton of comfort, a lot more maneuverability at the palm area, getting that stretch in there. We've been seeing Alpinestars use that for probably about the better part of 5 years now, and I like that they keep adding in, especially in the sport range. A little bit of extra digitally embossed with grip microfiber at the palm just to give a little bit more grip. And then you get a microfiber suede running through the entire palm landing zone with a bit of foam underneath there. And you saw that earlier when I talked about the flap. You get a little bit more foam on there. I would have loved to see maybe a TPU for a couple bucks more on the price point. TPU on there would have been something that just lasts a little bit longer, gives a little bit more protection should you go down and hit the deck. I like having a little TPU over the foam. But what I will say is that microfiber suede running down the palm does link into full coverage at the outer seam. Again, if you've ever gone down at the track or if you're ever wondering what the protection is on the outside, that's usually where your hand hits first when hitting the deck. So we always like seeing that outer seam covered with an extra flap just to make sure it's nice and secure. And Alpinestars did that with these. So all in, I mean, when you're looking at the full leather main construction, the air inlets, whether you're looking at the air or the regular version, as well as the dual density knuckle for a gauntlet, all at that $110 price point, I think Alpinestars is definitely punching well above its weight with the SP-8 V3 gloves. But if you have any other questions, click that info button. That's going to take you over to the product page where you can read other rider reviews and see what other riders are saying about these gloves. And if you still have questions about that, or if you do have questions on sizing, like I mentioned that it's fitting about a half size small, reach out to our customer service agents. They are all riders, happy to help you get set up for your next ride. I want to thank you for joining me and checking out the all-new Alpinestars SP-8 V3 gloves. I'm Pat, and I'll see you in the next video.